Hello, I'm Elfie and welcome to my channel where I share tips and techniques to help others learn to sew. Whether you are a complete beginner or you're just looking to upgrade your hobby to the next level, welcome, and please like and subscribe to stay up to date with the latest tutorials. In this sewing tutorial, I will be showing you how to sew an inseam pocket. This would typically be in a side seam of a skirt or dress, but really you can put them anywhere there are two seams meeting and they are totally invisible from the outside of the garment. You will need your front and back piece, so the front and back of your skirt. I am using a mock-up, so I'll be using two panels as shown. I have marked my notches. Your pattern will tell you where your pocket placement is. You will need your pocket pieces. Typically you will have two pocket bags on two sides. As you can see, the notches match up with the notches on my front and back pieces. You will need two strips of iron-on interfacing cut on the straight of gain. These need to be longer than your pocket. We will be applying these to the wrong side of the front and back piece along the edge where the notches are marked. This interfacing will help add structure to your fabric and prevent wrinkling. I am using quite a heavyweight cotton here and I wouldn't typically use these, but I am showing you the process of applying them for if you are using a lighter weight cotton. When pressing, lift your iron to the next location and press again rather than sliding your iron along the fabric. Do this throughout this project. Next, we will overlock the edges of each pocket bag. If you don't have an overlocker, you can use your regular machine and use a zigzag stitch on the very edge of the fabric to prevent fraying. Alternatively, you can use pinking shears. Work slowly and feed your material into your machine to make sure it stays along the edge. Make sure your knife is retracted. You do not want to cut off any fabric. Once you have done one pocket bag, repeat for the second pocket bag in the same manner. Press your pieces once you have finished the edge to make sure they are smooth and there is no tension. Now bring in your front piece. We are going to be working with the right side up. Locate your notches. You may need to snip them back in again after applying your interfacing. Typically your first notch will be about 10 to 12 centimeters down from the waistband edge. Apply your pocket right side down and align your notches. Pin in place, starting at the notches, and make sure your fabric is smooth with no bumps or gathers. To take this to machine and stitch at our 5/8 seam allowance along this line. You want to begin exactly at the edge of the pocket bag. Make sure you backstitch to secure your stitches and remove your pins as you work. You do not want to sew over pins. You are sewing here on your seam allowance line. In our case, this is 5/8. Remember to backstitch at the end. Once done, repeat this process in the exact same way for the back piece and the second pocket bag. Next, finish your raw edges along the straight edge of your front and back piece. catching the edge of the pocket bag as you pass. Do this for the front and the back. Press so they are even as before, and then whilst at your ironing board we are going to press the pocket back on itself like this, so there's a nice sharp smooth edge along the pocket. Do this for both sides. Going to top stitch along this edge. You want to work very close to the seam line. I am working at the 1/8 inch. Depending on your foot, you may have a mark for this, but you are working slightly over. Back stitch at the beginning and end to secure your stitches. I am using the red line here to guide me along this line with my needle placed slightly to the right. Tie off at the end. Repeat for the other pocket bag. I have used a contrast thread so that you can see, but ideally you want a thread that matches your fabric, and this line will not be visible in your end garment. Now align the two pocket bags right side together and pin them in place. I like to begin by pinning the edges of the fabric together where the pockets meet, and then pinning around the seam. Finally, I pin together where the pocket opening will be. We will not be sewing here, but it helps hold everything in place. And then pin around the pocket itself. As you're working, make sure the pocket is flat on the table and there are no puckers or gathers, as this could end up with bubbles in your final pocket that are visible from the front. We are going to sew down the 5/8 seam allowance, around the pocket and back down the 5/8 seam allowance. Once again, I am working with a contrast thread so that you can see. Remove your pins as you go. When you reach the corner of the pocket, leave the needle down and pivot, then lower your footer again. When working around your pocket, the seam allowance isn't that important. Just make sure the pocket is nice and flat and you remove your pin as late as possible. Once again, keep your needle down, lift your footer, lower your footer again, and continue in a straight line on your seam allowance. Tie off at the end. This would be your hem on your actual garment. Remove our pins, and we are going to press this seam nice and sharp. I like to begin with the seam above and below the pocket, then work on the edge of the pocket itself, using that top stitching line we did before to get a nice, neat, straight edge. As you can see, the pocket is barely visible and you have a nice, neat, straight seam. An alternative way, if you wish to have your seams open, is to snip these marks here and press above and below your pocket. This is personal choice. It can reduce bulk at the waistband and hemline. nice invisible pocket on the seam. If you have enjoyed this tutorial, please hit the thumbs up to like and subscribe to hear notification of future tutorials. Happy sewing!